And West Africa. By then, the Europeans traded in gold, diamonds, and ivory with the North Africans. But from the look of things, in North Africa, we don't have gold, no diamonds, no ivory. So it meant that these items were coming from somewhere to North Africa. These items came from West Africa to North Africa. So it happened that the Europeans came all the way from Europe to West Africa in search of gold, diamonds, and ivory. When they got here around the 14th century, they had what they searched for. Hence, the Europeans called Ghana the Gold Coast, because of the abundance of gold that they had. When we had our independence, the name was changed. We had Ghana, and again, Ghana means the land of gold. Henceforth, we had all the forts and castles along our coast. But as time went on, a new trade developed. We had the transatlantic slave trade. And talking about the slave trade, Cape Coast Castle, Elmina Castle, and Christiansborg Castle were all used as slave castles. This is the male slave dungeon. And talking about this dungeon, it is made up of 5 rooms, or 5 chambers. This is the 3rd room. Let's start from there. That is the very first room. The second, we pass by the 2nd room. This is the 3rd room, the 4th, and the last room. And you should bear in mind that each of the rooms could contain over 100 men or more. So when this dungeon is filled to capacity, it can contain over 1,000 men or more. They spent over 2 or 3 months in the dungeons before the ships could come for them. Because it happened that their shipments from here to America, the West Indies, the Caribbeans, depended on the coming of the ships. And ladies and gentlemen, it happened that while they waited, apart from eating and drinking water at the courtyard, they had to do everything in the dungeons. They had to sleep, defecate, and urinate in this place at the same time. So when you look on the floor, there's a gutter. It starts from the very first room, 65 by the British. 1665, yeah.
About how many years?
About 344 years. Alright, so let's look up. You see, there's something quite different from all the rooms. You see, this room is brighter. We don't have any artificial light in here. Only the natural light is coming in. Henceforth, they call this place the sorting out room or the separating room.
Why?
the separated room, and it was sorted out. You see, when I studied initially, I was saying that the slaves were branded. It happened that not only one company or not only one trader bought slaves. At a time, 2 companies or 3 people could buy slaves. But at the end of the day, they were kept in one dungeon or in one place. So what happened was that maybe Company A was selling its slaves to America. Company B was selling this to Europe, to England. And maybe Company C was selling its slaves to South America. So they had to sort them out. And apart from that, the weaker ones were separated from the stronger ones. After the separation, all of them were taken out into the ships. And again, you should bear in mind that they didn't go that way again, or they didn't go to Cape Coast Castle to join the ships. Over here, or talking about the side, the English built a tunnel, or they built a passage. And talking about that passage, it connected this dungeon to the point of the door of no return. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this side to be the entrance of the tunnel. It is now unfortunate the entrance is sealed up, or it is now blocked. It was sealed up by the British around 1832 because by then a law was passed in England ending the slave trade in all British territories in West Africa. So which means if this side was opened up, we could have gone to the tunnel to the door of no return. But all is not lost. When we go up, we are going to see the middle part of the tunnel. And over there they had another exit from here to the sea. But again, it was sealed up by the British. And also, this room is now a shrine, or let's say a sacred room, or let's say a place of worship. If you look carefully, there is this altar. And on top of this white altar, there are 2 stones on it. The stone is a deity, a god, or let's say an oracle. It is still worshipped. You see, about 400 years ago, before the Europeans occupied this land, the stone was here. It was worshipped by the Africans. But finally, the Europeans arrived. The Africans moved from here further to the hinterlands to enable the Europeans to build their castle. Around 1970, they relocated the whole thing back again to tell us that the rock or the shrine or the deity was here before Cape Coast Castle was built. Or before the Europeans and the Arabs came with Islam or Christianity, we had a traditional African religion. So to date, rituals and prayers are still performed in the shrine. He's a traditional priest. He performs all the rituals, prayers, and all the sacrifices that goes on in the shrine. And let's look over there. There are reefs all over. Alright, some of those we have of people like you who came here to visit. And others on behalf of Africans and the diaspora, and let's say diplomats, we have them there to remember those who died during the transatlantic slave trade. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the last room. I think from here they were kept here in chains and in shackles. So only this room was locked out. And as I said earlier on, they spent over 2 or 3 months in the dungeon. Within that time, that is once or twice in a day, they were given food and water at the courtyard. But apart from that, they had to do everything in the dungeons. They had to sleep, defecate, and urinate in this dungeon at the same time. If you look at the floor, there are gutters all over. These gutters were only meant for the passage of toilet, urine, and at times rainwater from the dungeon into the sea. And if you look out there, as we are around looking, that was the only way they had light and air. And let me show you something of the water here. Alright. I think you can spread out a little. I want you to see. Okay, if you should look carefully, there are white marks. There are white marks all over. Yeah, there's one there. Okay, see, it got to some point. Toilet and urine couldn't move through the gutters into the sea. So all these items got stuck up in this room. We had a mixture of toilet, urine, straw and sand. It got mixed up, the whole thing got hardened. It covered the floor to this level. You see, to this height. All over the room. Up in the stone place for those of us. It was a graveyard, or some place like a cemetery, where some of the officers or officials in Cape Coast Castle were buried. And talking about the slaves, when they died in the dungeons, their bodies were thrown into the sea. And among the Europeans, this is the only Ghanaian, or the only black African to be buried here. The name was Philip Kweku. He was born in Cape Coast around 1741. At the age of 11 years old, Philip Kweku was sent to England to be trained and educated. He returned again as a missionary or as a reverend minister. Reverend Philip Kweku was made the head reverend minister of that church. So right on top of the male slave dungeons, that was the first Anglican church in Ghana. Also, Reverend Philip Kweku used the church as a classroom where some of the Africans were educated. We are saying that he's one of the founding fathers of education in Ghana. He died on 17th October 1816 at the age of 75 years old. So Reverend Philip Kweku was buried over here when he died. Alright, let's introduce you to
Scottish.
Captain George MacLean.
George MacLean.
Yeah, MacLean was appointed the president of the English Committee of Traders. Their headquarters was here in Cape Coast Castle, so he lived in this castle. He died in 1847 at the age of 46 years old. Beside MacLean, that was a wife. She came all the way from England to Cape Coast Castle around 1838, only to visit the husband. But when she arrived, barely 2 months, she was found dead in one of the rooms upstairs. We have so many rumors, or there are so many controversy surrounding over her death. Some people are saying that she died of malaria when she arrived, and others are also saying that she committed suicide, or she killed herself when she was told, or when she learned that the husband had an African mistress, or the husband had an African girlfriend in Cape Coast, so she committed suicide out of jealousy. The last one is saying that probably she was poisoned by the African girlfriend or the African mistress. We don't know what actually led to her death. She died in 1838 when she was 36. The last one was a soldier. His name was C.P. Whitehead. He died in 1812 at the age of 38 years old. And apart from these people, others were buried over here. So right where you're standing, people were buried underneath. We had an excavation, but we didn't see any names on their tombs. We found names on these graves. So let's see what it's a water reservoir. It was only used for storing water. It's about 13 feet deep. They had pipes connected to all the roofs. So when it rains heavily, all the water will go to the pipes and all the water will end up here. Some of this water was given to the slaves to drink. So as I said earlier on, once or twice in a day, all of them were marched to this courtyard. They were given food and water. Afterwards, they were taken back into their dungeons. But for now, the pipes connected to this reservoir have broken down. We've now connected pipe water into it just to keep it up. We still use some of the water for domestic purposes. So let's continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will all remember, in the male slave dungeons, I made mention of a tunnel or a passage where all the male slaves will go through it to the point of no return. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on top of that tunnel. When we go down, we are going to see the middle part of it. And also the Europeans or the English had cannons. This thing is a gun. Behind us we have cannon balls. The balls contain gunpowder. What happened was that this doesn't contain gunpowder. One of the balls was picked at the mouth of this cannon. After the ball was picked, this fuse was lit up with fire. Within some few minutes, the ball would just go off. From here, the ball could travel at a distance of 200 to 300 meters from here. If the ball should hit any attacking ship, the ball will blast about a bit, or the ball will penetrate through the ship, making the hole in it. Water will just set in. The whole ship will sink gradually. And over there we have the Atlantic Ocean. You see, some years back, when the slave ships or when the ships arrived, they couldn't dock at this side because the water over here is very shallow. The ship docked about 200 meters from here. All the slaves were placed on boats. So from here, they were made to join the ships. And after they joined the ships, they crossed this ocean, that is the Atlantic Ocean, to the West Indies, the Caribbean, or to North America. That is why we had the name the Transatlantic Slave Trade, because they were made to cross this ocean to those regions. Alright, so from here, we're going down, we're going to see to the middle part of the tunnel. A soldier will stand here only to watch on the slaves whilst they pass by. And again, it was built in a way that nobody could climb up or nobody could descend down. And also, it got to some point, slaves were kept in the tunnel. So this thing was built so that air could penetrate into the tunnel. Alright, so let's see to where the audience is filled to capacity. It can contain over 1,000 men. So it wasn't all that 1,000 at times the people was less. So over here, the men were chained and shackled. They had another exit from here to the sea, or to the beach. At the beach, all the slaves were placed on boats for them to join the ships, because the ships docked about 200 meters from here. But again, this exit was sealed up by the British, just because during the high tide, or when the sea was rough, some of the water entered. It was sealed up to avoid any damage to the castle. They changed their route. So from here, all the male slaves went that way. They went down to the door of no return. So from here, we're going to visit the female dungeons. We shall go to the door of no return, but surely we are going to return again. And one more thing, if this side was opened up, we could have seen to the male dungeons. It was sealed up by the British around 1833 to mark the end of the slave trade in all British territories. So it was sealed up to mark the end of slavery in Cape Coast Castle. So let's visit where the females. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this side. The whole of this area was the exit of the tunnel. So if we had gone to the tunnel, we would have ended up here. So all the men were here in chains and in shackles.
How many?
The female slaves, those who resisted rape from the soldiers, those who were thought to be rebellious or very hard to handle, were kept in this small room or in this small cell. They were locked up. Their food and water was given to them to that small exit. Very soon we are going to visit another one. It's going by the name condemned cell. Now the condemned cell, no food, no water. Again, it was built in a way that when the doors are locked, no air could penetrate. Within days, the last person suffocated to death. In the female dungeons, we shall visit the condemned cell. From here, this corridor was part of the female dungeons. Talking about the opposite rooms too. Each of the rooms could contain over 100 women or more. Talking about the female dungeons at the time, it could contain about 300 to 500 women. They had a door, but we no longer see the door, only the hinges. There's the same thing over there. So the door was locked up. Right, let's go to the opposite room. All right, it's one step down, ladies and gentlemen. It's one step down. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the female slave dungeons. And talking about the female dungeons, it is made up of 3 rooms, the corridor and the opposite rooms. Talking about the female dungeons, it performed the same function as that of the male dungeons. At least they could spend over 3 weeks or 3 months in the dungeons waiting for the ship. Talking about the female slaves, it got to some point, some of them were raped. That's a slave market. Talking about the slave route, it starts from the north, from Mali to Burkina Faso, to northern Ghana, Salaga, Sandema, to Kumasi, to Asan Manso. And maybe from the east, we can talk about Nigeria, Benin, Togo, to Asan Manso. So it was a bigger slave market where people were not. Get closer. So which one of them is a block in a member? Thank you.